Hello everyone, welcome to Malta 5. My name's JD and today we are going to talk about a new M21 card that has kind of piqued my interest. So M21 has been out for a little while now, and one card in particular, I mean there's a few, I plan on making, building around a few different decks, but decided to start with Hooded Blightfang. Really cool new card from this set that I really like a lot. It's a 3 mana, 1/4. So it's got a fat ass butt, but it does have Deathtouch to make up for its small power. So 3 mana, 1/4 Deathtouch has a couple cool abilities. Whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And then also, whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch deals damage to a Planeswalker, destroy that Planeswalker. So it's kind of like a Deathtouch Lord almost. Deathtouch matters. So that's what I built around it. We're playing Deathtouch Tribal today. So let's talk about these abilities. The first one, whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch attacks, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So that does count itself. It doesn't say whenever another creature. So even if you just have a Hooded Blightfang on its own attacking, just by attacking, you at least immediately get that trigger and drain your opponent for 1. So it's kind of like it has 2 power, just even on its own, except 1 damage just automatically goes to the opponent. And if you have multiple of these guys, or if you have multiple creatures with Deathtouch out on the battlefield, these triggers stack up. They stack up pretty quickly. If you have 2 Hooded Blightfangs and 2 other creatures, all of a sudden that's 8 triggers. Drain your opponent for 8. That's not bad. So pretty cool card. The second ability is nice as well. Whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch deals damage to a Planeswalker, destroy that Planeswalker. This is so nice. So there's so many annoying Planeswalkers out there, and being able to, if we just hit them with a Deathtouch, having Deathtouch work against Planeswalkers is really cool, and surprisingly powerful. If they leave their guard down, that Planeswalker they just dumped, 4 or 5 mana into is just killed by a Foulmire Knight, a 1 mana Deathtouch. It can just kill it. So anyway, Hooded Blightfang, pretty cool. So the only other real Deathtouch tribal support we have is Vraska. She's a 4-drop Planeswalker. She only has a down tick ability, which is unfortunate. She starts at 5 loyalty, you tick her down twice, and then she's kind of done. But her static ability, whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch deals damage to a player or Planeswalker, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. So that's some more Deathtouch support. Whenever all our creatures, if they connect with a player or Planeswalker, they're just going to keep growing. Which is pretty cool, because it puts your opponent in a weird spot. Either they block and lose their creature, or they let you hit them and your stuff just gets bigger. And her -2, she poops out 1/1 black assassin creature tokens with Deathtouch. And whenever this creature deals damage to a Planeswalker, destroy that Planeswalker. So they have that ability that Hooded Blightfang gives. So Brass is kind of cool. Top of the curve at 4 mana. And she's also obviously legendary as a Planeswalker, so I only have 3 of her. But yeah, let's talk about the rest of it. There's a lot of this. Just happens to be a lot of legendary creatures in this deck. All the best Deathtouchers seem to be legendary, so I almost thought about putting in a legendary sub theme, like a Historic Matters, or try to find some way to, use utilize or take advantage of the fact that there's so many legendary things in there, but in the Pioneer card pool, there's not much. Anyway, so let's talk about the Deathtouchers. Also at the top of the curve, Questing Beast. Everyone's probably familiar with this card. It's just a really strong card. But again, it's 4 mana. It's the top of our curve at only 20 lands. It is legendary, so multiples aren't great. And also, it's just expensive, to be honest. I didn't want to pay for a full playset. I don't know if a full playset might be worth it. It really is just such a good card, but I just have 2 in here for all those reasons. It's It's mana-wise, it's expensive. Money-wise, it's expensive. And I justify it because it's legendary. But if you're not familiar, it's a 4/4 for 4 with Vigilance, Death Touch, and Haste. It's just got a wall of text. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Combat damage dealt by creatures can't be prevented. And when it deals damage to opponent, it deals that much to target planeswalker that player controls, which does combo well with Hooded Blightfang's ability. If you just hit the opponent, you can hit their planeswalker too, kill that. Just a good card. Ronus is nice. It's a 5/5 for 3, which are great stats. Death Touch and Indestructible. Again, amazing. The big drawback is it can't attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater, which we don't have much of. A lot of our creatures are kind of similar to Hooded Blightfang. A lot of the Death Touchers, they got big butts but low power. So the only ones that naturally have power 4 or greater is a Questing Beast. Other than that, we can... which one? Knight of the Ebon Legion can get himself up to 4 power by paying 3 mana. We can also, Ronus can pump things up with his other ability, which is nice. So he can get creatures above that 4 power if you put a little extra mana into it. And also gives Trample, which combined with Death Touch is amazing because you only need to assign 1 point of damage to the blocker, because that's all it takes to kill it, and then so all the rest of it can trample over. So your Questing Beast just needs to hit that blocker with 1 point of damage, and the other 3 points of damage can hit the opponent. So Trample is a great combo with Death Touch. So, so Ronus is pretty cool. I only have 2 of him, again, because it's legendary, and because we don't have a lot of creatures that are naturally 4 power. You have to put a little extra work into it. So I only have 2 Ronus. Speaking of Trample, though, let's talk about a non-creature card we have in this deck, which kind of acts like our removal spell. Additional copies of removal spells. It's Nature's Way. It's a sorcery speed, so, whatever. But it's only 2 mana. Target creature you control gains Vigilance and Trample, and it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So, this is different than a fight effect. They're not dealing damage back to each other. This is literally just a one-sided, our creature deals damage to their creature. And with Death Touch, that basically just says destroy target creature. And then on top of that, you also get Vigilance and Trample. So you can clear a blocker out of the way and then have that creature attack, get your Hooded Blightfang triggers, and it's got Trample and Vigilance. So the Vigilance makes it so it can hang back as a blocker on the next turn, and the Trample, you just get to deal 1. We already talked about how good Trample is. So Nature's Way, pretty cool. Isareth, she's a cool one. A 3/3 for 3, so decent stats for a Death Toucher. She's kind of the one exception to the low power rule. And when she attacks, you can pay X and return a creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we've got a bunch of, cheap creatures. We have 12 1-drops. We've got, 7 2-drops. So when she's attacking, you can get this trigger and just bring something back. We got plenty of creatures, so they're just going to end up in the bin naturally. So Isareth, some cool card advantage. Again, legendary, only 3. Sheville, semi-new from Ikoria, 1/3 Death Touch. Beginning your upkeep, put a bounty counter on something. And then when that thing dies, you gain 3 life and draw a card. So he fits the bill. He has Death Touch, and he's just got the upside of the whole bounty counter gaining life drawing cards thing. So just a solid 2. He fills the 2-drop slot, has Death Touch. Just makes sense. Gifted Aetherborn is the other great 2-drop Death Toucher. The Death Touch lifelink is nice. 2/3 stats are pretty good on a 2/2. Makes combat difficult for the opponent. Figuring out how to attack or block into this thing can be tricky. So Gifted Aetherborn, pretty solid. And then the 1-drops. Narnam Renegade. I just picked the best 1-drops that we have that have Death Touch. Narnam Renegade, nothing too exciting. It's a 1/2 for 1 with Death Touch, which is fine. And it has Revolt, so if something left the battlefield, it comes in as a 2/3, which that's actually pretty solid. 2/3 for 1 with Death Touch, not bad. So that's that. Foulmire Knight, It's kind of cool. It's good late game as you can cast it Profane Insight, draw a card off of it, so it cycles itself, and then you can just cast the Foul Marinite. Or you can play it turn 1 as just a 1/1 with Deathtouch. So, nothing crazy exciting. Knight of the Ebon Legion. This is a more popular card you might be more familiar with. It's played in the Mono Black Vampires deck. It's a 1/2 for 1. Does not naturally have Deathtouch, but you can put some mana into it, and then all of a sudden it becomes a 4/5 with Deathtouch. And the other trigger, the second ability, is pretty cool in this deck. At the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on him. So it doesn't even have to be lost 4 or more life in combat. It doesn't have to be lost 4 life from him. It can be from anything. So it works really well with the Hooded Blightfang triggers. If they're losing life due to that, this guy's just going to keep growing. So seems like a solid inclusion. And then to round it off, we have a little more removal, some actual removal in addition to the Nature's Way. Just wanted a little more interaction. So we can attack more freely, clear blockers out of the way, attack freely, get those Hooded Blightfang triggers. Mana base, pretty simple, just 20 lands, black and green dual lands. Hissing Quagmire is cool. It can turn into a 2/2 with Deathtouch. It taps for both our colors. Enters the battlefield tap, but it does everything we want it to do. So I've got 3 of those, and then play sets of Blooming Marsh, Llanowar Waste, Overgrown Tomb, some basics. Whew. So that's the main deck. The sideboard, we have an additional copy of Fatal Push, the 4th one. If we're going up against a creature-heavy opponent, we can bring that 4th one in. If we're not going up a creature-heavy opponent, say we're going up against a control deck, we'll bring in some Thoughtseize, strip out the good things out of their hand, bring in Heroic Intervention to protect us against sweepers and whatnot, and targeted removal. So those will come in against the more control-based decks. Necromentia for what's it called? That combo deck, the big one that everyone's playing. I'm blanking right now. The most popular deck in Pioneer. Inverter of Truth. You can kind of search their library and pick out their pieces there with Necromentia. So that's what that's in there for. Unravel Aether's good against various things. Artifact, like enchantment-based decks, obviously great. Artifact, like Ensoul artifact decks, hits a lot of their pieces. So this is good in various matchups. And Soul Guide Lantern for graveyard-based stuff. I guess it's kind of good against Inverter. It's good against Uro decks. It's good against Dredgy-style decks. So anyway, that's the sideboard. That's everything. Hooded Blightfang, M21. We'll see how good Deathtouch Tribal does. We're going to bring this through a league and hope to see you in the matches. Thanks for watching.